Good morning and welcome to this ad hoc webinar. My name is Jaro Misiak and I'm Principal Scientist of the Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change. And I will be the moderator of this webinar, which will be touching upon the recent work that has been completed by the project CLIMAAX. CLIMAAX is one of the mission adaptation projects looking into regional climate risk assessment and its application across the European regions. So it's part of the ambition one of the mission adaptation to equip the region and cities with advanced risk assessment capabilities and instruments. Our speaker today will be Martin Kubáň. Martin is with Slovak Technical University in Bratislava, as well as KAJO SME. And he has been working with the Žilina City and Žilina Administrative Region, and his talk will be part of the activities that was conducted by the CLIMAAX project. This webinar is also co-hosted by the Naturance project. Naturance project is looking into advanced risk assessment and an application for the insurance industry. So we're looking into how to combine the climate risk assessment and deliver the information that is useful for designing advanced insurance schemes, taking into account the contribution of the nature-based solutions. So without any further ado, I hand over to Martin. Martin, thank you very much for being with us, and we're looking forward to your talk on what has been done by the project and what kind of climate risk advanced application have been developed in the Žilina City. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jaro, for the quick introduction. Okay, so before I start, I want to introduce you with the situation in the Žilina City before the CLIMAAX project. The Žilina City had the climate adaptation strategy. In my opinion, it was really well prepared. But what was the problem? That it was only a dead document which they have, and they don't know what to do with this. That's why we find it important to incorporate then the Žilina City in the climate risk assessment creation process within the CLIMAAX project, which will improve the understanding of the possible climate change effects in the Žilina City and help them to better understand the climate data uncertainties which can be connected with the climate data. With the help of the project, we identified the most vulnerable places in the city. We prepared the tools which can help bring the science closer to people. And at the end, we help them with the preparing of the sustainable solution, which should help that this will not be the dead end. So I will now start with the Heatwave toolbox, which were created within the CLIMAAX project. Here you can see the CLIMAAX project consortium, where it's also CMCC and KAJO. If you are interested, you can find the CLIMAAX handbook in the CLIMAAX web page. And if you are more interested in the code, you can find the whole code at the GitHub, which is available there. You can download it and work with this code there. What was the motivation for the Žilina City to go there? The Žilina City, as I said, had the older climate adaptation strategy. And they also are familiar with the more frequent occurrence of the heat wave in the city. And they need a tool which is more tailored to this region, and they don't have the resources or skills to start their own climate assessment. Here you can see the structure of the heatwave workflow. The heatwave workflow itself consists from 3 parts. The first one is the heatwave risk description. It's a markdown file, which provides a brief description of the methodology and data sources which are used in this toolbox. The second part is the heatwave hazard assessment, which is provided in the Jupyter notebook in a Python code language. The first part is the Euroheat, based on the Euroheat methodology, where you can find the fixed temperature and duration thresholds for the estimation of the heat wave occurrence. This data comes in a yearly time step, and I've calculated from the ensemble of the RC regional climate models for the RCP 4.5 and 8.5. The second part is based on the XCLIM package. The XCLIM package is a powerful Python package which can be used for the calculation of the multiple climate indices. Here you have a possibility of the setting of the threshold for days and temperature. For this package, you will need to use the data in a daily time step. This data you can find in the Copernicus Climate Data Store and comes from the year 1950 to 2100. The disadvantage of this XCLIM package is that you can use only one regional climate model because of the volume of the data, but you can use also the RCP 4.5 and Okay, at this slide, you can see the example of the heatwave hazard assessment results. As I said at the beginning, it is important for the Žilina City to understand the possible uncertainties that comes with their Eurocontext data. In this first part, you can see the results based on the Euroheat data, which comes from the ensemble of the regional climate models. You can see this data, how smooth they are, against the data from only one regional model that you can see in this second part. It's working really simple. You can just select the pixel for your area and you will get the results. You can select the pixel in whole Europe, so it is available not only for Žilina City. The second part is the heatwave risk assessment based on the local, for the local level, based on the satellite derived data. This is the example which using the simple risk metrics for the estimation of the possible heat risk level. In this workflow combines two types of data. The first part is the overheated areas within the Žilina City, which comes from the Landsat 8 satellite derived data. And the second part is the population density for this area. This is the vulnerable population for the Žilina City, which comes from the workflow data. Here is the result, which comes as a combination of these two data. You can see the example in this case metrics. You can see also these blue lines and squares in the results, and it is the nice exercise which was done by the Žilina City Office, where they highlighted the places, more vulnerable places based on their experience in the Žilina City. The most important part of this was the understanding of the results by the Žilina City Office. Firstly, they come with the simple question of how often they can expect the heatwave occurrence in Žilina City. So this you can find in the hazard workflow. The second was, where should they reduce the negative impact in the city? This comes from the risk workflows for the local level on the based on the satellite direct data. In the first part, they identify the heat events in their city. Next part, they combine the heat exposure with the distribution of the vulnerable population. They also were able to add their local data and highlight the problematic areas in the city, which was the most important part, to also incorporate them in this process. And the last part was check the influence of the adaptation measures. The next step can be to find the possible mitigation or the mitigation steps in their city. This part we are focusing on the work which was done purely by the Žilina City Office. And it was, I think, really nice to see how proactive they were, and when they were able to do this by their own. The first thing was the creation of the web portal with the recording of the past flood, storms, and fire events in the city. The next part was the identification of the places where they can hide and refer during the heat waves. They were able to identify the heat islands in the city and also identify the building roofs prone to overheat. Here you can see some examples from this web portal that they created. There you can see, for example, the recorded flood events, storm events, or places where they can hide during the heat waves or heat waves itself in the city. We also try to help them visualize this data more user-friendly for the people, for the public. So we created some examples that they can present as a city. This is the one example, and also this one. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Martin, for your very nice presentation. I'm Jeremy Powell from CMCC and the Risk Assessment and Adaptation Strategy. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you, Martin, for your very nice presentation. This is meant to be a very open discussion, so we'd like to have the participants, both in online and in the room here, to discuss to open the discussion for feedback, questions, and comments. So those of you online, we can pass you over to the panelist room, and you can ask a question. And also, but we'll first start with somebody in the room for a question. And then if you're online, please raise your hand and we'll move you over into the room. Or if you, less preferably, you can type a question in the Q&A, and Martin can then take your question from there. Okay, so let's open up the floor. Any questions?
I can go. You can hear me? My question was regarding the vulnerability data, so the vulnerable population. Is it just population density, or is it vulnerable population like people that don't have access to AC or this kind of things?
This was created as a vulnerable population divided by the age. It is people older than 65 years of age and younger than 5 years of age.
Can you
Thank you.
screen sharing? Screen sharing.
Another question?
So thank you very much, Martin, for your nice presentation. I was wondering also, linking to the question from Gloria, have you presented these results to the public, and how did you decide on the communication about your results to the citizens and stakeholders, and how they did react about seeing the most vulnerable areas to heat waves, and whether there was this triggered a discussion about how to plan for adaptation?
Okay. First, we present this data only to the Žilina City Office and discuss this data with them. It's up to them to present it to the people. So we don't know the results yet, and we will see.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, do we have any other, I think we're trying to get Majid into the, yes, we have him now. Majid, don't unmute, but speak into this microphone here.
Thank you very much, Martin, for your presentation. I wonder if someone else in another city would like to exploit your methodology and like to try to adapt this toolbox to another city of his own country. In addition to the input data, is there any other thing that he should take into account to use the toolbox in order to do the risk analysis? And also the second question is about the input data that you use for the toolbox. Can you please provide a little bit more information on the data? I mean, the spatial temporal resolution, and did you have any difficulty for data gathering, or do you have any recommendation for others to have pre-processing the data in order to get better results out of the toolbox? Thank you.
Thank you. So as I said at the beginning, we try to keep this as sustainable as possible. So we use only open source data for the creation of these toolboxes. We mainly, for the projections, we are using the Eurocortex data, which comes in native resolution of 12 kilometers. For the part of the satellite derived data, we mainly use the Landsat 8 data, which comes in 30 meters grid for the city. The population data comes from the world pop, which comes in a resolution of 100 meters. Of course, in this toolbox, you can use your own data. If you have some better data, it's completely, I think, robust, and you can use there. But for the Žilina City, it was important to use something which they can use in the future also, not only now. So because they also have the data, for example, they have a thermal scan of the city from the airborne, but it was in, I think, 1 or 5 centimeters grid. But they don't know what to do with that, because you can see the heat island on every roof on the car or things like this. When you use this data from the Landsat, you will better see the heat islands, the places which is like hotspots for the city.
Do we have any questions online? Feel free to raise your hand or type a question in the chat, and I'll follow up that question with, I was curious about how you handle the uncertainty with the scenarios, and I don't know if you used all of the Eurocortex scenarios, if you selected some of them, and how you decided which ones to select. Yeah. Okay,
for this reason, we firstly select only the one regional model, which was which should be the best for the Žilina City. But as you know, these regional climate models produces a little bit different results. So we then try to use the Euroheat data, which comes from the ensemble of the regional climate models. So it is more robust for this, for the Žilina City or Slovakia region.
Okay, and I didn't quite catch, did you then apply were you able to apply the changes in climate to the satellite data? And so you could take the satellite data and then apply on top of the satellite data the changes in, say, temperature that you might expect to see.
It is, I think, a really good idea, but we come to the problem with the resolution differences. Like if you have climate data in 12 kilometers grid, and then you have the satellite data in 30 meters grid, it is somehow tricky, and we don't have enough space to do it within the CLIMAAX project, but maybe it can be the next step.
Any questions online or in the room? I have another question. I have many questions, but I think we should have others speaking if somebody wants to ask something. While we wait for people to come up with their questions, I was also wondering, you know, heat wave and the lethalness and the mortality associated with heat waves is often also connected to the humidity in a location. And I know with the satellite data, I assume it's just temperature based, but I'm wondering if there's ways for you to consider the humidity, or if you've thought about it, considering the humidity, and if the Euro heat data that you're speaking about also have humidity in the data set.
Yes, I think it can be incorporated there. It's also a good point. Maybe these heat wave maps that have for the Žilina City from the satellite data, it's a perfect first step for the Žilina City to use it as a places where they can install the measuring station for example, humidity and other calamities or other things that they can measure within the city.
Questions? Gloria.
Yeah, I have another question, more curiosity regarding the heat refuge, like the places where people can hide from a heat wave, because it's a topic I didn't, it's a thing I didn't know, and I was curious if what they are, if they are parks or, and if it's like it's in the city plan, let's say, to have a refuge that can address like a certain rate of amount of population, because if there are not enough, the risk is overcrowding, right?
Yeah.
So I was curious about that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So these are only the places, as you said, within the cities. Are places like big shopping malls with the AC or sources of the fresh water for free, which they can drink. So it's not the specialized places only for this purpose, but they can be for this. It's completely okay. Like places with the fountains or sources of fresh water for people.
Thanks.
Majid.
Yes, thank you, Martin. I would like to know much more about the implication of the methodology. So you're using the future climate scenarios and try to map the places that are very vulnerable to the heat waves in an urban area. So are you looking for like to make the people and public aware about the situation, or you are trying to guide the urban planner in order to not to like build new constructions into the places that are very vulnerable to the heat waves? I imagine that the city can go in different direction and in terms of urban planning. So what do you think that other people can get benefit of your methodology?
Thank you for this question. It's actually a really good question, because one of the first results of all of this work is the new regulation for the Žilina City, and they tried to implement it in urban planning for the city, so it should be there.
We have also two questions online. I'm Jeremy Pellet, not Gloria Molzi. And one of the questions, I'll start with a short one first. Is there a possibility to integrate the toolbox with GEE? Because we have many pre-processed data available on this platform. And this is from Umair Razoul. Umar, can we pass you into the room to ask this question? Because Martin would like to know what GEE is. I think a Google Earth Engine, I think.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if it is possible, but maybe there will be yeah, it's a good check. Maybe there will be a way how to implement it there, but we don't try it for now.
Okay, now we'll go to Kyriaki. I apologize for the pronunciation of your name. We'd like to ask about the results you presented based on the XCLIM methodology. How many combinations of GCM, RCMs did you use? And the plot was based on one GCM, RCM combination. And lastly, what is the definition of a heat wave that you use? So, we sort of covered the first one, but maybe just to re-emphasize how you handled the Cortex ensemble.
Yeah. So, okay, for the XCLIM platform, you can use the GCM or RCM, which you choose in the CDS. And also the definition of the heat wave, the XCLIM platform, you can change it there. So it depends on you how many days as a threshold you set, or which temperature you set for your country or your area. For the Euroheat project, there is a strict definition, which comes as 3 or more consecutive days, which exceed the 90% percentile of the threshold temperature.
Thank you. Any other questions? Majid has a question.
Yes, following up my previous question, I was thinking that probably we have different risk, climate-related risk when we are talking about urban planning. So probably there is a result out of your methodology that says, for example, this region is very vulnerable to heat waves, but at the same time it can be vulnerable to another climate risk. So I was wondering that how your results can accommodate the results of other climate related risk assessments. Do you try to merge your results with, for example, flood prone maps, or I don't know, other risk, climate related risk, in order to not only to focus on just one heat waves implication, and on other also climate related risk?
Okay, thank you for the question. We try to use the CLIMAAX as a first step for the Žilina City, so we not try to use this cascade risk, which we understand that this is connected also, for example, with forest fire, etc. But in the first step, the Žilina City identified 2 main risks for which most concern for them. The first one was the heat wave, and the second one was the flash floods in the city. Firstly, we try to put together this heatwave toolbox, and secondly, after this, we will try now to implement the flash floods workflow in the city, and try to incorporate them together.
Yeah, I'm coming back to a question that was asked previously about the scaling, upscaling or transferability of the of this workflow. And part of CLIMAAX is initially that these workflows are supposed to be applied at sort of the European level to get a first rough assessment, and then use local data to refine the assessments. And it seems like your toolbox kind of handles the local data immediately, because the satellite data are quite high resolution. But would there be ways? Are there any challenges that another region or community would have in applying this toolbox, this workflow to their location?
Okay. It's first question for the Žilina City, or not only the Žilina City. We also communicate with Barcelona and Setúbal. They told us that they have the data for the regional level. So what they really need is something more local. So we try to focus on this. We understand that we cannot bring all the solutions in this one toolbox, so we at least try to use one thing and focus on this. But it is, I think, a document which live online and can be maybe redone, or maybe there can be some updates how we can do it on more regional level or something like this.
So like, was any bias correction need to be done with the satellite data, for example? And with the Eurocortex, are you using the bias adjusted
Yes,
data?
the Eurocortex uses the bias adjusted data. For the satellite data, we not test them directly, but we only, for some days, try to compare it with the sensors that have in the Žilina City.
So basically, any of the cascading fund regions, or for that matter, anybody, even possibly in the world, could take your workflow and apply it.
Yes,
using
yes,
at
for
least
sure.
the satellite part and then the Eurocortex part. If they're outside of Europe, then they would have to use a different Cortex product.
Yeah, sure. As you said, the Eurocortex is available, of course, only for the Europe, but the part of the satellite data is the worldwide product, so they can use it wherever. So
And the pass frequency of the satellite is 5 days? Or?
that's somehow problematic, but as we are focusing on the heat waves, we are lucky because the heat waves are usually during the sunny days without clouds. If we were focusing on something in the winter, that will be more problematic. But of course, the time resolution of this data is between 8 to 16 days.
Okay. Any other questions online? Please raise your hand or type a question. Other questions in here? Okay, well, I guess with that, we'll conclude this this webinar. Thank you all for attending and this ad hoc webinar. And we look forward to seeing you in future events. Gloria or Fulvio, do you want to announce anything with the community of practice or?
Maybe we can just remind you about the upcoming events in CLIMAAX, specifically about the web festival that will be held in the last part of January, on the 29th and 30th of January. So please have a look at the website of CLIMAAX, where is the registration link for this web festival, and we hope to see you again in this event in the future.
Thank you. Again, thank you for attending and have a very nice day. Bye-bye.